A very good morning to all of our viewers. You're watching the Breakfast Rundown and I'm your host, Therunee Karunaratne. Well, Sri Lanka is all set to head into its next big election. We're just 2 days away, and in the latest development in this regard, campaigning activities concluded at midnight yesterday. With that, let's move on to our top story for this morning. The silent period for the 2024 general election commenced at midnight yesterday, following the conclusion of the campaigning period. Commissioner General of Elections, Sirasa Ratnayake, said that the silent period will remain in effect until the 14th of November, which is the date of the general election of Sri Lanka. He has urged all candidates to abide by the laws and regulations of the elections during this silent period. The Commissioner General further reiterated that all preparations for the 2024 general election are now complete. Registered voters who are unable to obtain their polling cards may obtain them online. The National Election Commission has announced that registered voters can visit the e-services website of the National Election Commission of Sri Lanka and follow the instructions in order to download their official polling cards. Meanwhile, Commissioner General of Elections Sirasa Ratnayake confirmed that necessary security arrangements for the upcoming general election are already in place. Now, according to, he also added that he further highlighted that the transportation of ballot boxes to the polling stations will begin tomorrow. According to the Election Commission, nearly 200,000 state sector employees have been deployed for election duties this time. A total of 8,361 candidates will be contesting the upcoming 2024 general election, which is just in 2 days. From them, 5,015 are representing recognized political parties, while 3,346 are independent candidates. Meanwhile, the National Election Commission of Sri Lanka says that over 20 foreign election observers will be taking part in the monitoring process of the upcoming 2024 general election. Chairman of the Election Commission, R.M.A.L. Ratnayake, says that the group includes election observers from South Asian nations as well. 10 foreign election observers will arrive in Sri Lanka upon the invitation of the NEC, including observers from countries such as Russia and Thailand. The chairman further adds that they will meet with members of the commission and then commence their election observance duties. Meanwhile, the chairman of the National Election Commission says that a team of international observers from the Asian Network for Free Elections, also known as ANFREL, met with officials from the Election Commission yesterday and then proceeded to commence their elections observance duties. Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre of Sri Lanka says that a special program is in place in order to tackle any disaster situation during the upcoming general election period. Director of the DMC, Pradeep Kodipilli, says that the Department of Meteorology, Department of Irrigation, National Building Research Organisation, Tri-Forces as well as Sri Lanka Police will be joining forces for this cause. He also says that a special centre to manage any disaster situation will be operational from today onwards. So this centre will be open for 5 days, starting from the 12th of November to the 16th. Let's move on to another local story now. The Ceylon Electricity Board says that proposals to reduce electricity tariffs will be submitted to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka by next week. CEB spokesperson Dhanushka Parakramasinghe said that the previous proposals that were submitted in order to reduce electricity tariffs have already been presented to the CEB. However, the PUCSL. However, the Commission had requested that the proposals should be revised and resubmitted by the 8th of November 2024. Now, in response, the CEB had requested for an additional 2 weeks to submit the new proposals along with the necessary adjustments and calculation amendments. According to the spokesperson of the CEB, the revised proposals for the new electricity tariffs will be submitted to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka next week. Meanwhile, the Department of Railways says that the train service between Colombo Fort and Thalaimana will be resuming today after a break of about 10 months. According to the Department of Railways, the first train will depart from Colombo Fort to Thalaimana at 4:15 p.m. today. It is expected to reach Thalaimana in 6 hours, that is 10:15 p.m. tonight. Deputy General Manager of Railways MJ Indipolage said that the train will then depart from Thalemana to Colombo Fort at 4:15 a.m. tomorrow and is expected to reach Colombo Fort within 6 hours, that is 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. The train service from Colombo Fort to Thalemana had been temporarily suspended due to renovations along the Mahava Anuradhapura section of the Northern Railway line. Meanwhile, the UN's annual climate summit is underway in Baku, Azerbaijan, for the second consecutive day, where thousands of global representatives have gathered for crucial negotiations on tackling the climate crisis. Azerbaijan is hosting and presiding over the 29th Conference of Parties, or COP29, this year. The event is taking place over the next 2 weeks at the Baku Olympic Stadium in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. COP29 is considered the foremost global platform where international representatives convene to address the climate crisis, aiming to mitigate the increasingly severe impacts of climate change that are affecting the world. This year, the conference has garnered unprecedented participation with over 40,000 delegates, including heads of state, government officials, business leaders and media representatives coming together from nearly every corner of the globe. UN Climate Change Executive Secretary had this to say at the COP29 opening ceremony yesterday.
Do you want your grocery and energy bills to go up even more? Do you want your country to become economically uncompetitive? Do you really want even further global instability, costing precious life? This crisis is affecting every single individual in the world, one way or another. And I am as frustrated as anyone that one single COP can't deliver the full transformation that every nation needs. But if any of your answers to those questions was no, then it is here that parties need to agree a way out of this mess. That's why we're here in Baku. We must agree a new global climate finance goal. If at least 2/3 of the world's nations cannot afford to cut emissions quickly, then every nation pays a brutal price. If nations can't build resilience into supply chains, the entire global economy will be brought to its knees. No country is immune. So let's dispense with the idea that climate finance is charity. An ambitious new climate finance goal is entirely in the self-interest of every single nation, including the largest and the wealthiest. As a Secretariat, we'll continue to work tirelessly with what we have got, while being clear on what funding we need so we can deliver on what's increasingly being asked of us.
Well, alongside climate finance, COP29's key topics to be discussed this year include the carbon market, transparency, climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as energy transition. COP29 will take place in Baku, Azerbaijan from the 11th to the 22nd of November. Now, Newsfirst, Tariffs and cameraman Disnaka Nayanchana will be representing Newsfirst at the COP29 summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, and will be bringing to us the latest updates all the way from Azerbaijan over the next 2 weeks.
Will mainly focus on how the most affected nations like Maldives and developing countries like Sri Lanka can get the financial strength they need to withstand the climate change. And for the next 2 weeks, we are ready to bring you the updates of COP29. With this Nayanchana, I am Tariffs reporting to you from Baku, Azerbaijan.
Taking a look at your weather news for this morning, the Department of Meteorology says that an increase in rainfall can be expected from tomorrow in many areas across the island. The Director General of Meteorology, Therunee Karunaratne, says that due to a low-pressure area that has developed in the Bay of Bengal to the northeast of Mannar, rainfall conditions are expected to intensify. Well, shifting your attention to news overseas, Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has condemned Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide in some of the harshest public criticism of the country by a Saudi official since the start of the conflict. Speaking at a summit of Muslim and Arab leaders, the prince also criticized Israeli attacks on Lebanon and Iran. In a sign of improving ties between rivals Riyadh and Tehran, he also warned Israel against launching attacks on Iranian soil. Saudi's de facto leader was joined by other leaders present in calling for a total Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank as well as Gaza. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister said it was a quote-unquote failing of international community that the war in Gaza had not yet been stopped, accusing Israel of causing starvation in the territory. Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said, quote, "Where the international community has primarily failed is ending the immediate conflict and putting an end to Israel's aggression," unquote. The war in Gaza was triggered by Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack, which saw hundreds of gunmen enter southern Israel. About 1,200 people have been killed, with 251 others being taken hostage. Now, Israel retaliated by launching a military campaign to destroy Hamas, during which 43,400 people have been killed in Gaza, and this is according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry. A report by the United Nations Human Rights Office found that close to 70% of verified victims over a 6-month period in Gaza were women and children. Leaders at the summit also condemned what they described as Israel's continuous attacks against UN staff and facilities in Gaza. Let's move on to our final story this morning, sports news. In sports, it's cricket. On a high after levelling the T20 International Series against Sri Lanka with a thrilling win on Sunday, New Zealand will be deprived of the services of key pacer Lockie Ferguson for the ODI leg of the tour. Ferguson, who picked up a hat-trick in the second T20 International between Sri Lanka to spur the Kiwis to a sensational win, had left the field due to some discomfort while bowling his second over in the game and would not be fit enough to take part in the upcoming ODI. Adam Milne has been called into the squad as Ferguson's replacement. Now, Ferguson will return home to New Zealand today for scans and to determine the extent of the injury and the period of rehabilitation that will be required by him. The first match of the 3-match ODI series between Sri Lanka and New Zealand is scheduled to begin tomorrow at the Rangiridambulla International Cricket Stadium. Well, that brings to a close today's edition of the Breakfast Rundown with me, Therunee Karunaratne. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, that is 7 a.m. on TV1. Until then, take care. Have a wonderful day ahead.